Hurricane Helene hit Appalachia in September 2024 with an indifferent violence. Fields drowned before harvest, roads became rivers, and lives were dismantled mid-sentence. But through the chaos, people waded in. Neighbors and volunteers trudged through the sludge to bring food, fuel, and clean water, not because they had extra, but because they had none. Others had none. And in a region seen so often through a lens of scarcity, it was the Appalachians that looked devastation in the eye and said, "Hold my sweet tea." And then they showed up and they gave generously. But if you experienced those same floodwaters firsthand, you know fear, real fear, the kind that keeps us safe. It tells us when to back away from the bear, when to hit the brakes. Fear is a survival instinct that will keep us alive in those moments. But when fear becomes the driving force behind your everyday decision-making, whether it's your businesses, your relationships, even your creative endeavors, fear does not protect us. It paralyzes us. And it robs us of the chance to fully connect and be generous. Fear-based decision-making is rooted in a scarcity mindset. The scarcity mindset is the belief that if others have more, then we must have less, that there isn't enough. There's not enough for everyone. There's not enough time. There's definitely not enough money. There's not enough opportunities or success or land or food or water or love. And so we isolate and we compete and we control to try to protect what we can. But tonight, I invite you to imagine what is possible when we shift from fear to trust, from scarcity to abundance, and return to what Appalachians have always known. Fearless generosity builds communities. Let's pause. How does the scarcity mindset pop up in the everyday? Do you ever have thoughts like this? When someone else wins, it feels like I've lost ground. I think asking for help means I failed. I measure myself against others and I end up feeling behind. I don't hoard things, but I might hold on to ideas or credit or opportunities too tightly. And I spend more time worrying about what could go wrong instead of imagining what could go right. When we believe that there isn't enough, we self-protect. Because if I don't think that there's enough for everyone, I need to be sure that there is enough for me. So the scarcity mindset becomes the logic behind panic buying toilet paper during the pandemic. It can show up as clingy or controlling behavior in relationships. It can even look like a small business owner avoiding a creative risk that could lead to a breakthrough. But instead, they chase safety and perfection because they don't believe that more opportunities will be there. It might even look like a professional creative or artist working in isolation out of fear that sharing ideas or space or credit will diminish their own value at its core. The scarcity mindset is me versus everyone. It turns us inward and self-focused. But what if that isn't true? What if there is enough? What if there is enough? What if there is enough time? What if there's enough money? What if there's enough success and opportunities and land and food and water when we believe that there is enough? Our decision-making? That's no longer rooted in fear, but from a place of peace. We can loosen our need for control and perfection because we're free to fail. We can move into seasons of uncertainty with curiosity instead of fear. We can take that creative risk. We can play. And in doing so, we're inviting others in for collaboration and new solutions. An abundance mindset inspires generosity. And I'm not just talking money. I'm talking your time, our wisdom, our presence. It allows us to see others not as threats, but as collaborators. So at its core, an abundance mindset is no longer me versus everyone. We can actually become other-focused. But this idea, that is not new in Appalachia. For generations, history tells us for generations, families have been thriving here in the Appalachian Mountains, even if they didn't have much, by practicing an abundance mindset. Many families had to survive on their own gardens because of the steep hills and the stubborn weather, so they would grow what they could grow best in their gardens, and then barter or swap with their neighbors down the holler with what they could grow best. One neighbor could have beans, another could have potatoes, and everyone ate. Not because they had plenty, but because they had trust. They didn't say, there's not enough for you. They said, let's make a meal together. That's abundance in action. And it's still alive today. I've witnessed it. My Appalachian story doesn't begin in a holler or a crib, but with a leap. At 27, I moved here from a city known for its culture of hustle and me first and win no matter what. But after 5 years of living here, really discovering who I am here in Appalachia, I took another leap and started a small business. And in doing so, I took a 10-week-long training program for entrepreneurs that connects them with mentors and experts in this very small business community. And that experience gave me language to how I felt about living in this region since I got here, but didn't know how to name until now. The difference between my experience in that other city and here in Appalachia isn't just in the place or the pace, but the mindset. Because I'll be honest, when I started that entrepreneurial training program, I did not know anything. But I started walking into those rooms. I started walking into rooms full of people and other business owners who had every right to guard that wisdom. But they shared it. Can you imagine? Seasoned entrepreneurs leaned in and said, this is what worked for me, this is where I failed, and this is what we could do better. No gatekeeping, no competition, just generosity? Their willingness to support me and lift me up shouted a profound truth. Abundance is kind of like being fearless enough to support others so that we can all succeed. And there's science behind this. Studies from Stanford show that people who practice an abundance mindset experience lower stress, greater creativity, and stronger decision-making skills. They're seen as more generous, more collaborative, and creative. But why? I think it's because when we stop focusing on what we lack, we can start focusing on what we can give. That's the shift. The shift from self-protection to shared possibility that can take all of us from scarcity into real, true, deep community. So I have a few ideas of how we can all start practicing an abundance mindset tonight. We should be building tables, not pedestals. Scarcity thinking says there's only one seat at the top. And if we believe that, we're going to start comparing, right? Comparison builds pedestals. This is how it shows up in me sometimes. I'll catch myself thinking, her business is growing so much faster than mine, and she's doing things I don't really know how to do, and she's making it look easy. I'm just going to give up because there's not enough room for both of us. But my abundance mindset is teaching me how to knock down that pedestal and use the wood to build a table. Let me reframe that with an abundance mindset and tell myself a more accurate story. Wow, she's really forging a path in our industry. I wonder what I can learn from her. No, I wonder what we could do together. Can we collaborate instead of compete? Maybe you can invite someone that you admire into your process, not just as a peer, but as a neighbor in the work. Ask questions, share stories, brainstorm. Say yes to shared credit. Say yes to mentoring someone else. It's when we intentionally build these long table relationships that we are reminded we're not in this alone. we were never meant to be. Secondly, this is my favorite. We can choose curiosity over control. Fear and scarcity crave control because control is a counterfeit form of peace. And when we live in that space of fear and control, we stop asking questions, we stop listening, and we stop growing. But curiosity is the language of peace. Instead of demanding certainty, it invites wonder to the table. You can move into uncertainty with possibility and discover answers you didn't even think to look for. It's about asking braver questions. Instead of shutting down with, I don't see how this is going to work, step into possibility and ask, what's possible here? What haven't we seen yet? Curiosity doesn't see setbacks as proof of failure, but as evidence of daring greatly. Curiosity reopens our ears, it loosens our grip, and it makes room for joy, for experimentation, for transformation. And lastly, we can rewrite our fears. Scarcity thinking is often these broken record lies that we just repeat to ourselves and then start to believe. I'm behind everyone else. If I can't do it perfectly, I'm not even going to try. Someone else has already done it. There's no point in me doing it too. But with an abundance mindset, we can start to rewrite those fears. Maybe I'm right on time for this version of the dream, the one that benefits from who I've become in the waiting. Perfection is just protection in disguise. Courage might show up a little messy. Yes, it's been done, but not by me. Not in this way, and not for this moment. Your voice might be the one that someone else has been waiting for. It's the stories that we tell ourselves that will shape how we show up and give. Appalachia taught me that. And Appalachia is telling a beautiful story of abundance in our rebuild after the storm, because when Hurricane Helene tore through our mountain communities, abundance showed up in muddy boots and pickup trucks, right? It showed up in pop-up tents and borrowed generators. It showed up in bowls of beans and potatoes passed hand to hand, because that's what abundance looks like here. It's business owners collaborating instead of competing. It's creatives leaning into play instead of perfection. It's neighbors living generously, even when self-protection feels safer. So let's keep showing up that way. Let us be abundant. Don't let something like fear rob the world of your skills, your creativity, or our willingness to stand together, especially for such a time as this, because we need everyone here. We need you. We need everyone here to show up fearlessly generous, creatively bold, and unapologetically Appalachian. And the next time fear tries to take the lead, we can just look it in the eye and say, hold my sweet tea. Thank you.